Hey, let's move into where to from here, because there's some other political conversations out today that I wouldn't mind touching on. Of course, we've all been hearing a little bit about the lending rules at the moment, and this is probably a switch into the conversation about these are standalone stories of their own, but they're also, when you start looking at the government, like Prime Minister is talking about, like come April 1st, people will feel, minimum wages going up. There's the for people who are eligible for it, there's the winter, whatever it's called, giving you money for winter warming sort of thing comes along.
Yeah.
And that's all coming in April. So there are things coming that I think will paint Labor in a better light. One of the criticisms that they've had recently is of these home lending rules. We've all heard the stories and read the stories about people who have, had their home loans turned down because they got takeaways once a week, or, there was someone, I read one, the best one I read, best was the one that talked about the person needed to get insurance through the bank to have their home loan approved. And after they got their insurance, they were declined because of the outgoing that was the insurance of what they were doing. So, and I haven't been a sufferer of this, but the kind of finicky details I came across a little bit when I was not refinancing, but just rolling over the mortgage. My term was up.
Yep.
That they wanted me to clear my my overdue amount with the DCC, and that was $4.98 that I owed in rates. $4.98. So I had to clear that before.
I hope you were okay with that. Yeah.
No,
you should have shouted. I could have loaned you that, man.
Yeah, I went to the family trust and got money out, and it took 30 days. No, anyway, but they've come out. There's been obviously, as soon as the noise, and to their credit, as soon as the noise started getting made in the media, they started looking at it. And the Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Dr. David Clark, has announced practical amendments to the controversial lending rules. Why don't we just tell people what the amendments are in case they haven't heard them yet? So the amendments are the removal of regular savings and investments as examples of outgoings that lenders need to inquire about. So you're allowed to save your money now without that being a negative against you. That's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
What about clarifying that when borrowers provide detailed breakdown of future living expenses, there is no need to inquire into current living expenses from recent bank interactions. So if you got takeaways last week.
That's the takeaway rule that you're talking about.
So you got takeaways last week, but they're not going to go, why did you buy takeaways last Thursday? That's basically what that's saying, yeah?
Yeah.
You thought that was a really important one, yeah?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think partially, I think that's one of the ones that obviously it did get a lot of media attention, and it's because it hits on two fronts. It hits on the financial front, but it also hits on privacy. It did feel, whether or not this is true or not, it felt like it was a lifestyle tax in a way.
Yeah, right.
It was kind of like a legal institution of the old millennials can't save for a home because they buy smashed avocado, fallacy. Well, that's kind of what it felt like, which is you're being judged because you get takeaways once or twice a week. Maybe, yeah. So I think it's important, probably for perception rather more than anything else. But it's I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad it's going to be written down.
And people who wanted to get around it got around it very easily anyway, because they started. We said this yesterday. They just started to get their weekly groceries plus $100 cash on top, and then there's no record, and so it was sort of pointless because it was easily got aroundable, to make up a word, as well.
Yeah, but I think it's nice if you don't have to, lie about that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Number 3, clarifying that the requirement to obtain information in sufficient detail only relates to information provided by borrowers directly, rather than relating to information from bank transaction records.
Yeah,
probably why did you get takeaways?
It's kind of the same thing. Yeah, it's we're going to ask you what your outgoings are, and we're not going to necessarily comb through your FPOS statements to find out whether that's true. Yeah.
And we did have people saying in the media, so being interviewed, the bank was asking why as well. They weren't just saying, I see you spent money on takeaways. There was people being asked, why did you spend that money? It's like, well, that's none of your fucking business.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.